All right, so WrestleMania is over, and we're going to hit a period now where things are going to be kind of up in the air when it comes to the business, with Vince McMahon getting his power back. And, I'm recording this right after Raw ended, and it was not the best Raw, but also some of their roster didn't make it due to legitimate travel issues. So it was, they did the best they could, I guess, with what they had. It was definitely better than last week, but right now I'm not really too hyped for Backlash. I'll still watch the show, but they haven't really hooked me yet. What I want to talk about though in this video is I want to talk about AEW All In coming up this August from Wembley Stadium in the UK. Now, a lot of people have said that the only reason as to why Tony Khan even booked this show is because WWE just did 80,000 people, and it was almost like a dick measuring contest thing where he chose to try to either beat that or come close to it. I don't know if that's true. Tony has said things on social media that make me think that he does definitely have, some insecurities. But I can't confirm or deny whether or not that's true. Now, the weird thing about All In is it's literally a week before All Out. And All Out's in Chicago Labor Day weekend. It is a week before. So they're going to have to promote two pay-per-views at once. They're going to have to promote All In, then they have one Dynamite and one Rampage, and then they have All Out. Now, I'll talk more about that as we get closer to the events. But what I want to talk about here is what can AEW do to actually do well in Wembley Stadium. So first of all, let me get this out of the way. I have a real hard time believing that AEW can do 90,000 people in Wembley Stadium. This is not because I have an issue with AEW or because I don't think there's enough fans over there. I think that WWE proved with Clash at the Castle that they can draw over there. But 90,000 is a lot of people. I mean a lot of people, and it's a very difficult number to hit, especially for a product which has honestly cooled off a bit since how hot it was in 2021. AEW's cooled down significantly. Now, I have liked most of the Dynamites since Revolution, and I do like this Elite versus Blackpool Combat Club feud, but by August, is this still going to be going on? So what I want to talk about in this video is what they can do to really draw as many people as possible. Now, again, I don't think they're going to hit 90,000. Could they do 40,000? I think that 40,000 is definitely a number that if they hit it would be a big success. Remember, AEW has not been around that long. They don't have the same market share WWE has. They don't have the same promotional vehicles WWE's had. So it's not going to be the same. You can't compare the two. But we are going to compare them a little bit. Only a little bit. But when it comes to like tenure doing this, it's just not the same. AEW doing 40,000 would be a tremendous success. If they do like 65, 70,000, that's a massive success. Then at that point, it's like they should be doing cartwheels. 90,000? I don't know. I have a feeling they're going to tarp off some of the staging, and it won't really be 90,000, but it'll be somewhere in the neighborhood lower than that. Now, again, I could see 40. They also have to remember it's a field, so they're going to have to a stadium. They're going to have to put seats on the floor. SummerSlam 92 was beautiful from Wembley Stadium, and that was back when they had 80,000 people. I think it was 80,000 the capacity for that, and they did about that much, if not a little bit lower than that for that show, British Bulldog and Bret Hart. So the question is, how can AEW sell out All In, or at least do 40 to 60K? So here's the issue. If this was a stadium show in the United States, they would have a little bit easier time because there's more wrestling fans in the U.S. than there are in London or in the U.K. There's a lot in London, don't get me wrong, and I'm sure they'll go out for it, but there's way more here. So it would just be easier to sell that show here. So what can they do? Well, there's been rumors, and I've talked about this on Twitter, because I did hear directly that CM Punk is coming back. Now, whether you have a problem with that or not, maybe I'll do a video about that, but basically, they want CM Punk back. And obviously, the biggest match they could possibly do right now in AEW to draw the most eyeballs as far as box office would be CM Punk versus Kenny Omega. Doesn't have to be for the title. It doesn't have to even be a stipulation. Just those two guys going at it in the ring, considering that the brawl out and everything that went on with that was a big deal. They can turn a negative into a positive, and it wouldn't be the last time or the first time, anywhere near the first time, where a shoot became a work. It can be done. If the two parties are willing to make up and work together and trust each other, which is really going to be on Tony to make sure that happens, and he's proven he's not very good at this, but it's going to be on him to make that happen. That is the one match that I think could draw. Now, there's some other matches. Some have said a six-man tag, the Elite versus Punk and FTR. That could be a good match as well. I'm not sure about the box office of that one compared to CM Punk versus Kenny Omega one-on-one, but hey, you could try that. But remember, you've also got All Out the very next week. And if All Out's happening in Chicago, Punk's going to have to headline that show or at least be in a feature bout on that show. Now, what else can they possibly draw the house on All In? So they could do, I've heard at least people say, what about a Sting retirement match? Because Sting said he's going to retire this year. I think a Sting retirement match would be a very good upper mid-card, attraction. I think that people in the UK would be happy to be out there and see Sting's last match and to have Sting work in front of that many people. Even if it's just 40,000, that's still going to be a success for AEW. Remember, they're a newer company. So I do think that that's possible for it being, you're not going to pull 90,000 with Sting's retirement. You're just not. Sting of 2023 is not the same Sting from 2000. Well, I was going to actually say the same Sting from 2015 who went up against Triple H, but I was really going to say it's not the same Sting from like 97, 98, when he was red hot, when he was the hottest he's ever been. Definitely not the same guy. So I think that, yes, it's a very heartfelt thing to do for Sting, and I would do it on this show. I just don't know about like him drawing that many eyeballs. I think if you do CM Punk versus Kenny Omega and the Sting retirement match, I think both those matches could really do well. And both those matches together could get them over 40,000. Now, again, I'm not saying 90 or even 60. I'm saying over 40. Now, I could be wrong. I'm just giving you my guesses based on somebody who's watched wrestling since 89. I've been around, yo. So, then you've got somebody brought up, well, what if they do a Goldberg retirement match? And while I could see something like that happening, Goldberg has not really done anything in AEW, and he's not really the kind of wrestler that AEW fans really, really enjoy seeing. AEW has always been tailored more so for the internet, which I've criticized them for because they haven't really drawn the casual audience. The casual audience would appreciate a Goldberg retirement much more than the smart marks would, especially since Goldberg has kind of no less than embarrassed himself in the last few matches he's been in. I think it could be big historically, and maybe on pay-per-view that could be big, but I don't see that. I don't see people in the UK rushing to go see that match, even though, again, having it on the card is not going to hurt, but I don't see that match selling 20,000 more tickets. I just don't. And like I said, AEW has no history with Goldberg. He hasn't done anything. I think what they're going to have to do is two things. Number one, they're going to have to really, really try to get some big matches, some dream matches done. Like maybe something like Will Ospreay versus Kenny Omega. If they can't do Kenny Omega and CM Punk, the rematch, I think that could probably do 40,000 because of how good the Tokyo Dome match was, and it's a big rematch from the Tokyo Dome. I think that could do 40,000. I think maybe bringing in Okada and doing an Omega-Okada match, I think that would also draw. Because remember, we're tailoring it towards the smart marks. Now, what I think Tony really has to do to hit the 45, 50, 60,000 mark is he's going to have to really, really get focused on AEW's television. I have criticized their television before, and even though it's been improving, the main issue with AEW TV is that they don't have week-to-week storytelling anywhere near the kind of stuff that wrestling had in its heyday or anywhere near the kind of stuff that WWE did with the Bloodline, where every week you had a new story. You have these compelling characters, and you have to remember with the Bloodline story began back in 2020. This is not like a new thing. So it took years to kind of build it up to where you had the bloodline slowly growing. They're adding, the one Uso, then the next one. The Heyman turn was first. Then you've got Solo Sikoa debuting at Clash of the Castle. Then you've got the Sami Zayn thing going on right around then. So you've got a lot of different little pieces that were building on itself until it crescendoed earlier this year with the Sami Zayn turn. These are things that were week to week. And if War Games Survivor Series had not been booked so well, I don't think it would have been as effective. So remember, this is years and years of building up these characters and getting the audience to understand and relate to them. AEW's got 4.5 months, roughly 4.5 months, to get people from the casual part of the wrestling fandom or lapsed fans to come back and to get his numbers over 1 million consistently like they were with Punk. I think Punk could do it because they were hotter with Punk, but I still think there has to be more to it than that. I want to see good storytelling. I want to see week-to-week angles that build up. I want the pay-per-views to matter, but I want them to also continue the stories and close off some stories. There has to be all hands on deck storytelling from AEW from now until August and even September. Because remember, you've also got All Out, and then 2 weeks after that, they're probably going to do their Stadium Showdown from Arthur Ashe. And as we know, Stadium Showdown 2 did not draw anywhere near as well as Stadium Showdown 1. So they really are going to have to get their ducks in a row. TK's going to have to show some real leadership. He's going to have to really bring in who he needs to bring in to get that number up for All Out, or for All In, I'm sorry. Because I don't see them doing 90,000 at all. 40,000 seems more likely. And if they do 40,000, again, that's a huge success. That's double what their record is. That's double what AEW's record is. And Wembley Stadium, I don't know if you guys have seen what it looks like now compared to like SummerSlam 92, but it does look a little bit better to mask. Some of the upper risers can be tarped off. Like there's ways to sort of hide the upper seats, to where you could do 40,000 people or 50,000 and look fine. It'll be okay. But still, it's a big show. It's their biggest show. I mean, unquestionably, All In is their biggest show, right? From a stadium, like a real stadium. The tennis stadium is one thing. This is a real soccer, football, as they say, stadium. Because really, it's really called football. Let's keep it real now. Not American football, but it is football. So, I don't know, man. I think they're going to really have to come up with some compelling stories. AEW likes to book matches, and that's what TK likes to book, is big wrestling matches, right? But the problem with his booking is that it's tailored towards the marks that like big matches, when, as WWE's proven, the big matches only matter when you have great storytelling to build to it. And if they don't have, and this has been historically the case for wrestling for years, good booking has always been beneficial to wrestling versus bad booking and stars. And AEW does not have a guy on their roster right now that's anywhere near the level of like a Steve Austin, a Rock, a Hulk Hogan, a John Cena, Roman Reigns. He doesn't have any guys. He doesn't even have anybody on his roster. And I'm sorry if you're an AEW fan listening to this. Look, I like AEW too when they're good, but this is the truth. They don't have anybody on their roster that's anywhere near as over as like Sami Zayn is now. They just don't. They don't. I mean, you can look at the crowds. They don't. CM Punk is the closest, and he's got issues with the company, So they're really going to have to figure out what they're going to do. I think FTR and the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, CM Punk as a double main event is a fantastic way to do it. I think that the rubber match can be done there. And they could even say something where no matter what, they never wrestle again in AEW, which is kind of risky because you don't want to say never and stick to it, but maybe they can't wrestle again for a year. You could do a thing where the Bucks and FTR say, okay, we'll never wrestle again for a year, for 12 months. Then this is at least worth a lot more, you know what I mean? Then you have to wait a year to see them wrestle again. I don't mean wrestle anybody, I mean each other. They can't wrestle each other for a year. Something like that to where this match is like must see. They really gotta get their ducks in a row. I'm surprised they didn't get New Japan to help them, but maybe that they don't feel the audience is going to care that much in the UK. I still feel like it might be a good idea to get their help on this, to bring in some of their stars. But really, man, you know, they really got to start building guys up now. You've got 4 months. That's about the time. Like back in September, they were building WrestleMania, September, October, November, and they had 6 months, 7 months to build it, right? Roughly, give or take. And they got 4. I want to see every TV show AEW does from now on to really focus on these characters. We got to get to know them. I think they need more time. I think if they booked All In next year, like August 2024, it's probably a better idea because then by then you've got time to rebuild the roster. But they don't have that luxury. They don't have that luxury at all. I predict they'll probably do about 40K. That's my prediction. Roughly around 40 to 45K. If they do 50K, that's a huge success. 60K, a phenomenal success. Anything above that is like great. I'm predicting 40K because I think that's a fair number. But, you know, they've had some bad booking going into Revolution, and TK can't do that, man. He's got to get 100% focused on this now. I know he has other football leagues and things like that to take care of, but this has to be his priority in order to really get this show to draw a big crowd. And also, he should not be price gouging. AEW did a horrible job of price gouging for Forbidden Door last year, and I know because I paid for it. Let's just say that I have paid more for Forbidden Door tickets than I did out of the 6, 7. I've been to 7 WrestleManias. 1 cost me more than that show. Legit. And that was only because I sat 4th row. You understand? Like, that's how... And with Forbidden Door, I did not sit 4th row. I did not sit 4th row at Forbidden Door. You understand? So he can't do that. He's going to have to really do some discount tickets to get more people in. And they can get more people in at a lower rate. I think it's worth doing this time. I think this time it's worth doing. Not necessarily with the early tickets. Sell as much as you can, but like maybe the last month before the show, release some more seats at a discount rate, you know, further up. Those are my thoughts. Let me know what you think. Talk to you soon.